Welcome back to the Barry Charles Footy Show as we look at your best club teams take on each other to see who would make it through to the top 8. This week we've got a big one here, the Canberra Raiders versus the Cronulla Sharks. Yes, this is going to be battle of the wits. Battle of the wits. Who will win out of these two? And I think a lot of people already have the answer already before I've even listed this team. But anyway, let's have a look. Canberra Raiders. Now, one of my favourite players of all time, David Peachey, taking on Gary Boucher. Now, this is one that could have gone either way. And again, some people are saying, why aren't you picking your favourite players? But I had to go on records. Gary Boucher wins out there. Now, this is an interesting one. Brett Mullins and Noah Nandruku versus Richie Barnett and Valentine Holmes. But to be fair, Dinkum, this was Mullins clearly gets in. Brett Mullins clearly gets in. Valentine Holmes, I think, sneaks in. So they're pretty evenly balanced there. But this is where the game is won. In the centre pairing, Ruben Wiki and Mal Meninga at their best is probably one of the best pairings out there, even though they didn't play too much together. But if they had played together, it would have been outstanding. But the argument here on the other side, Steve Rogers, you could have him in front of Ruben Wiki, and that's fair enough point. But I just from what I saw, I just think it was outstanding. And obviously Andrew Ettinghausen, the gun centre as well. So this was a tough one, very tough. But yeah, I'd give it to the Raiders here. And again, the Raiders just look too good in the. Sorry for presuming, but Laurie Daly and Ricky Stewart versus James Maloney and Brett Kamali. Yeah, the Sharks was a bit of a tough one to find the best halfback, to be honest. Could have gone for Tommy Bishop as well, but it's just the way the cookie crumbled, and I like Brett Kamali, so Brett Kamali got the pick there. When we look at the props, Clinton Pongier and Joel Lomax, to be honest, it was real tough for the Raiders to know who to pick here, because there was Brent Todd as well, Josh Papali, so many options in the forward pack. But I had to pick, and Glenn Lazarus was in the Melbourne Storm team, so he didn't make this team. I mean, it was a tough one to really look at who to pick out all these great players. But then you look at the other side, yeah, Dane Sorensen and Andrew Fafita. So what a game it would have been in the forward pack with these ones. And I've given it to the Sharkies and the props. Both very good, tough teams, both of them, but I've gone for Sorensen and Fafita to win that battle. And the number 9s, this would be a very good battle between Michael Innes and Steve Walters, but just overall premiership, Steve Walters wins the day. And then we go to the second row, Jason Kuroko versus Luke Lewis and David Ferner and Gavin Miller. I've given it to the Sharkies in this position as well. But to be fair, these players are not in the top 10 players in these positions, so they're pretty weak in that lineup in the second row. This was a tough one, probably the toughest one to pick. Who is the number 13? Who's the best 13 out of these two? Bradley Clyde and Paul Gallen. Who do you pick out of these two? It was really, really very tough. Paul Gallen losing in all those New South Wales sides. Well, Bradley Clyde was probably in a better New South Wales side. But Paul Gallen did everything week in, week out. But I just remember the way Bradley Clyde played. He was just smooth as silk. He ran around like no one could touch him. He was just very, very good player, Bradley Clyde, back in his day. And I had to give it to him, even though Paul Gallen. I mean, there was some very good locks in this game, and to really narrow it down to the best lock, it's going to be tough when we get to that thing. When we just talked about last time, Wayne Pearce and Simon Mannering. I mean, the lock is a tough position to pick the best player of all time, and that's for sure. Now looking at the bench, and again, I think they just went hands down here. I had to put Jack One and Terry Campese in this team. So they take out Adam Dykes and Jason Stevens. And then John Bateman and Josh Papali make my Canberra Raiders best ever team. And Josh Papali beats Martin Lang for mine. But Les Davison beats John Bateman. So I think this is pretty clear cut what happened in this one. That the Canberra Raiders won this one. But when you look at the list of Canberra players that didn't make the squad, Chicka Ferguson could have easily been put in there. Ken Nagus as well, Jared Croker, Todd Carney, Josh Dugan, obviously Brent Tom, Sam Becker, Glenn Lazarus. I mean, there's so many good players that missed out on the squad. But that's the way I went. And on the Cronulla side, we look at the Cronulla Sharkies. Unlucky players, Tom Bishop, Mitch Healy, he was a very good player, Paul Green, Danny Nutley, Chris McKenna, and Greg Bird. But Greg Bird missed this team. He would have been in the team, but he missed this team because we had to make a Gold Coast Titans team as well, and he went into that team. But yes, this if we look at it as overall, the Canberra Raiders backline was just way too good. The only players that could hold their own, and this is Steve Rogers and Valentine Holmes, or man David Peachy. But Richie Barney would be carved up. Brick and Woolley would be carved up, especially those two. No pun intended, but they would be carved up. The forward pack is a bit more even. I've given the Sharks the better team overall, but it's still Quinton Ponga, Steve Walters, John Lomax, Jason Cricket, David Furner, Bradley Clyde. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. But Dane Saracen, Michael Innes, Andrew Fafita, Luke Lewis, Kevin Miller was a very good player, and Paul Gallen. They're very two good forward pack minded teams. Yes, but in the class they had, I mean, Terry Campese was good in a bad team. So I thought he was unlucky, and Jack Whiten as well. I mean, these fellas, if they played in the top team when they were around, they would be superstars of the game. But yes, that is my thoughts on the rugby league competition here. So Canberra Raiders won this hands down, big time, easily beat the Sharkies in this game. But the Sharkies can win this game when you got the Steve Rogers and Ettinghausens, the Peachies, Maloney's. But I'd give them a 2 out of 10. I think Canberra Raiders would win 8 out of the 10 games, to be honest. And obviously having Paul Gallen and Andrew Fafita in the team will give you a chance. At least Davison coming off the bench with Martin Lang. So yeah, but to be fair, I think 8 out of 10 times the Canberra Raiders team would win this one. Too easy. Absolutely too easy. Anyway, that's enough from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. We've got plenty more coming up around this topic as we narrow it down to the top 8, and then we'll get it down to the top 4, all the way to the best ever team that you've ever seen in the NRL. Remember to comment below, smash the like button, and I will see you, and subscribe to the channel. We will see you at the next video. Have a lovely day.